butterfly effect suggests that a tiny decision can flip everything upside down, but Daud thinks that's totally bogus. He's messed up enough already. Suddenly, a girl knocks on his door, calling him honey, and saying Ophelia said he's free today, so he should let her in. She keeps bugging him, asking if he's really just gonna ignore her. He's had it with her stalking. Out of the blue, she tries to bust down the door and he freaks out. This girl has some serious problems. He says it's against the rules and the president would get involved, but surprise, surprise, she's the president and couldn't care less. She just keeps banging on the door. She even calls him out for dodging her for exactly 32 minutes. She looks gorgeous and shouts out that she's got a question. Then she hits him with a huge surprise. She asks if he'll marry her. Her name's Elnore, and he tries to cool her down, tilting his head like he has no clue what she's talking about. Just then, another woman walks in, totally shocked at the whole scene. That's Saras, an assassin, and she starts teasing Elnore for going after a guy who's already taken. Elnore claps back, saying this isn't her business with so many witnesses around. Saras totally teases her, saying that her greed just makes her want to get rid of anyone who notices. Finally, our guy can't take it anymore and yells that he's uncomfortable and hasn't even thought about marriage. Out of nowhere, another gorgeous girl crashes through the roof and lands right in front of him. That's Lilu, and she's asking him to live with her. Just like that, another stunning girl pops up, wondering what he does to attract all these attention seekers. That's Yuria, claiming she's his fiancée. Then another hot girl shows up and tells Yuria to back off because she's the one. Her name's Fainal. Suddenly, all the girls start arguing about who should get his attention, and the whole place goes crazy. So, what's with all the craziness? Let's dive into what's going on with the ladies. Fainal, Yuria, Lilu, and Saras. Or maybe Elnore will be the one to watch in the romance scenes. It all kicks off with a survival game called Savior Rising, or SR. It's got that whole academy vibe mixed with serious weeb energy. Our guy finishes the game feeling pretty good about himself. But the next day, he gets yanked right into that same world. Now he's confused, stuck living the hero life he never wanted. He's Daud now, a powerless Viscount's son from Campbell Viscounty, where farming is the only thing going on and dungeons are a fantasy. Getting into the Imperial Academy is already a big deal. Before he leaves, his dad is all teary-eyed, telling him how proud he is and to try not to stand out in Elfante, where all the nobles hang out. When Daud checks his stats, he sees everything's F rank and he's got 0 skills. His mission? Get into the academy and snag a class slot. In the game, skipping a quest means game over. Daud tells his dad everything's gonna be fine, planning to keep a low profile and let his grades slip. Not quite what his dad expected, but Daud figures the hero can handle the spotlight. So, his school adventure begins, but he's already freaking out about sharing a carriage with Elnore. She's tough and basically the final boss in this world. They're bound to clash, and when her sanity snaps, the gray demon inside her will rise, turning her into the ultimate boss only Daud can tackle. Elnore spots his pale face and asks if he needs a doctor. She apologizes if she made him uneasy, mentioning she chose to travel with him on purpose. He knows she's way out of his league. Elnore, as sharp as ever, asks why he's so quiet and if something's bothering him. He tries to play it cool. When she asks what he's heard about her and if they've met, he just says he knows she can be strict. She calls him weird. Then he realizes he should stop overthinking and just look outside. As he turns to the window to admire the view, he suddenly sees something terrifying coming their way and yells a warning about a huge rock flying toward their train. He knows Elnore's got skills, but with her stats all at F, they won't matter now. Before he knows it, he's face first in her chest. He jerks back, all flustered and apologizing. She brushes it off, saying it's no big deal and it's the first time someone's been that bold with her. When she asks for his name, he hesitates, but finally says he's Daud Campbell. She grins and says she won't forget it, adding she'll repay him later. Then a system notification pops up. He's caught a villain's attention and unlocked some cool rewards: desperate survival and deadly charm. The medical staff rushes over, but luckily, no one's hurt. Once things chill, they head straight to the academy. Daud gets a cool new gift, Fated Attraction, a skill that pulls in people with shady traits while giving him random perks. Since a lot of folks around here have some dark sides, he thinks it could come in handy. He checks out his new skills. Desperate Survival boosts his stats when he's in danger, while Deadly Charm attracts some pretty evil personalities. The first one seems useful, but the second feels a bit risky. He's not quite sure what evil traits really mean. Little does he know he'll soon run into a battle junkie, a cold-blooded assassin, and a clueless genius mage. For now, the priority is to get stronger and stay alive. He notices something odd. The skill rank is marked Mystery. Even as an SR veteran, he's never seen that before. The medics check on him again, but he brushes them off, saying he's fine. As he steps onto the academy grounds, someone starts addressing the crowd. He sits quietly, lost in thought. The staff described him as an Elfante grad from a nobody family. He wonders if that rock incident was just a fluke or something more. With the Tristan dukedom having tons of enemies, it's probably smart to keep his distance from her. He keeps reminding himself to steer clear, even though he's already getting caught up with her. In a school full of gossip and politics, it's no shock she could end end up being the main villain. Just being near her feels like a death wish. While he's stuck in his thoughts, someone calls him out for zoning out. Everyone's paired up for sparring except him. After the ceremony, they start evaluations, and he finally gets a match. He scratches his head, wondering who he's up against. The leftover guy or girl has to be tough. Then a hot girl steps forward, introduces herself as Elia, and offers to help him out. She's a known genius, and now he's feeling really nervous. This is totally out of his league since she's the protagonist of this game. This Daud thinks if he is fluffed. Meanwhile, a chick is just baffled that Elnore is late to the entrance duels. Then Elnore strolls in, totally covered in blood. The girl's got a million questions and just wants to know what the heck happened. Elnore coolly claims she was handling some business. The girl sighs and asks if anyone's dead. Elnore just shrugs and casually drops that maybe about 12 people didn't make it. Apparently, someone tried to take her out by dropping a boulder on the academy, making it look like an accident. Elnore figured out who was behind it and took care of it herself. The girl tells her to speed it up, saying if she hurries, she might get a chance to meet Elia, who's a total genius. She also wonders how Elnore knows Daud, considering he seems pretty average. Just the thought of him makes Elnore smirk a bit because, honestly, he's actually kind of interesting. So, our guy is seriously shaking in his boots facing off against Elia. He knows he's kind of a joke, and if she lands a hit, he's basically toast. But weirdly, he thinks this might actually work in his favor since some of the villains he'll have to deal with later are watching from the audience. If he can survive this, it might grab their attention. With his brains and a little luck from this crazy situation, he might just pull through. Elia strolls up and asks if he's really that weak, totally catching him off guard. Right in front of him, she casually mentions planning to beat him up, and he starts sweating like crazy. Then she throws in that she knows about the dead girl from the Tristan family and can't stand her whole clan. Daud thinks that's pretty bold, but hey, she's not wrong. There's definitely some family issues there. He tells her he was just in the same room as the girl and reminds her about Elnore. She suggests they fake a fight. Sounds kinda risky, but if he doesn't level up soon, he's done for. The only way to stay alive is to get noticed. Shaking with fear, he tells her to go for it and even admits he liked Elnore. Elia raises an eyebrow, but she decides to take him seriously and charges right at him. When she swings, she ends up breaking his sword. Elia realizes he dodges. Maybe he's not as weak as she thought. She steps it up. Suddenly, a system alert blares, warning him he's in serious danger. That kicks his survival instinct into high gear. He channels some aura and lands a solid punch right to Elia's face. The force shocks him. Elia gets wrecked and slams right into a wall. He can't wrap his head around it. Even with all F ranks on his first day at El Fonte, he somehow just took down the main character. The academy goes wild with rumors. Some call him a fraud, while others say that Hit was way too legit to be fake. Professors argue about whether he's got skills or just luck, and one warns that ignoring this kid could be a big mistake. A green-haired professor mentions some standout students, saying if this guy's special, he'll totally matter later. Soon, he's all over the news, rumored to be a knight commander's kid and the academy's rising star. After that, he starts remembering the game world he came from when a system notification pops up. He's gained Elnore's trust level 2, curiosity 2 from Baron Armut, and 1 from Viscount Lupin. He figures out that curiosity turns into interest and then trust, and those levels rack up points for rewards. Elnore seems to be the most interested in him, which is confusing since she's the final boss. He also picks up the Tristan sword technique, which is tied to demons, but realizes that gifts only come from villains who are fond of him. Then there's a knock at the door. It's Elia asking if this is Daud's room. He freaks out as she calls out, saying she knows he's in there and threatens to break the door down if he doesn't let her in. Elia decides it's time to head back, realizing she should have just gone with the flow. She really wanted to meet up with the guy, but feels lost and unsure about how to be friends with him. Then, out of nowhere, she runs into Elnore, who warns her to watch where she's going. Just seeing Elnore freaks Elia out. She starts shaking and instinctively grabs her sword, wondering if she could take her on at her current level. Elnore introduces herself and offers her hand, but Elia is so caught off guard that she doesn't even react. Elnore then asks her to hand over a bag, and even though Elia is still trembling, she gives it back. Her mind starts racing about Daud and how he fits into all of this. She tells Elnore to turn right down the hallway to get to his room, which makes Elnore raise an eyebrow. How does she know that? Elia says it's because she's hung out with him, and when Elnore asks why, she scratches her head and says it's for friendship. But then Elnore drops a bomb. New students aren't allowed to hang out with the opposite gender. Elia checks if that's a real rule, and Elnore says she just made it one, so Elia can't visit Daud anymore. When Elia questions Elnore about her connection with him, Elnore brushes it off, telling her to remember what she said. Elia starts thinking about what our guy mentioned about her dislike for Elnore. She's beginning to suspect there's something going on between them and decides to keep a closer eye on him. The next day, during class assignments, the students are split into groups after a one-on-one duel. Daud takes down the warrior candidate and ends up in the top group. Everyone's proud of him, but he's feeling a bit weird about it. The problem is the girl he pushed away yesterday is now in the same group, and she seems to be showing more interest in in him again. Plus, he's getting this creepy vibe like someone's stalking him and wonders why this is happening. When it's time for the group of one to go, he decides to focus on the exam since it's part of the main scenario. Suddenly, Elnore pops up, saying she's running the exam. This can't be a coincidence. The Elnore event was supposed to happen today, and now she's literally in charge. The professors debate if he's a genius fit for the warrior role and wonder how he'll handle class assignments. Elnore tells everyone to head to the exam area for questions. Her minions are curious about how much effort she put into this. When they reach this dark, creepy spot, the group thinks it's pretty cool. Elia asks if this is part of the test, and Daud thinks he can figure that out. Suddenly, the entrance seals shut and the lights go out. The Elnore event has kicked off. Daud worries this is a trap, not a test. Some of the minions think the academy will sort it all out and want to keep moving, but Daud realizes these people are part of the main event's gang. If he remembers right, this is where they all first met, so these folks are pretty important. He suggests heading to the center hall since there should be supplies there to fend off any ambushes. He figures Elnore and Elia are probably on the same page. He mentions he's heading out, and Elia is all like, why? He tells her it's necessary, but when she asks again, he says he can't really explain right now, but it's super important. To him, looking out for himself is number one. Maybe taking down Elia gave him a bit of street cred, but he just needs to keep a low profile until this blows over. Elnore is the real target anyway, so he thinks he's in the clear. His plan is to find a chill spot and just wait it out. Then, out of the blue, someone shouts at him, claiming they found him. It's some random dude insisting he's there to fix a power issue and asking for help. Daud tells him he's not seeing too well in the dark, and suddenly his system goes off, letting him know things might get messy. One of the minions yells at Elia, asking if she thinks Daud will manage on his own. Elia thinks he must have some kind of plan. As they look around, it's clear they're surrounded by assassin goons above. Meanwhile, our guy is with the goon he met earlier, who believes he's already dealt with that pesky woman. That's only true if our guy isn't around, and this dude seems pretty confident. He leads the goon to the equipment room and points it out. He sees our guy as a rookie and plans to mess with him before taking him out and finishing off Lady Tristan. As our guy glances away for a moment, the goon shows his true self and says it's time to handle him. Unfazed, our guy sighs, relieved it's just him, Hazmed. The goon looks surprised, and our guy adds he'd prefer to face someone stronger. He feels a bit better, noting that Hazmed's movements are slow. Hazmed, now furious, thinks our guy is weak and decides to finish it quickly. Meanwhile, Elnore and her crew are going to town on the minions. Elia shouts at Palkas to freeze the enemies, wondering what Elnore is up to while she's busy smashing through them. The minions are dropping like flies. Elnore asks if there are any more out there. As they keep going, one of the crew mentions Hazmed. Elnore asks if he's around, but the minion can't respond, so she kicks him in the face. Turning to another minion, she demands to know, and he reluctantly admits that the assassin is with them. Elia questions why Elnore is going so hard, and Elnore shoots back that they tried to kill her. Hazmed is an assassin who can take someone's look by offing them. Elnore asks who'd be the easiest target right now. Elia realizes Daud used himself as bait to lure out the strongest enemy. They're all after Elnore, and she just doesn't get why he's risking it all. Curious, she asks what's up with him and Elnore, who brushes it off saying they're nothing. As for Hazmed, he's really not doing well. The Guardian's soul is supposed to block damage, but it's not working here. Maybe it's because the school is old and mysterious. Whatever the reason, it doesn't change the fact that he's still getting hit. Our guy is taking him down using the Tristan sword technique. Hazmed starts to realize he messed up by messing with our guy. While he's getting wrecked, he asks who he is, and suddenly the deadly charm kicks in, leaving him stunned. Our guy thinks that since they're at a safe point, he can't use weapons there, which is why he lured Hazmed in. He tells him to spread the word to stay away from Lady Tristan, pointing out that even an assassin like him almost bit the dust. If that happens, Elnore's gray demon might come out, so he wants to nip it in the bud. Hazmed asks what if he comes back, and Daud says he'll be there to protect her. Hazmed questions if Lady Tristan really matters to him, and he replies that she does. That triggers the deadly charm again, and as Elnore hears it, the villain's popularity skyrockets. When Daud turns around, he spots Elnore sneaking up behind him. The next day at the academy, the assistant is completely thrown off and zones out because everything's such a chaotic mess. The chick professor knows the Chancellor is really ticked off, but she doesn't get why they need to hunt down the organizer right away since she's already juggling a ton of stuff. The academy is a total wreck behind the scenes, and it's pretty obvious there's a spy lurking around, especially with all these assassination attempts happening. She asks Elnore if these sneaky schemes aimed at her are normal. After a second attempt on her life, they need to stay sharp. This feels different, and whoever's behind it is bound to strike again. Everyone around Elnore gets recognized for their bravery, but for some reason, she's the only one left out of the commendations. The professor can't understand why she's avoiding the spotlight. When she brings it up, up, Elnore just shrugs it off. The professor, clearly annoyed by her constant questioning, throws a bottle at her and asks what's up. Elnore finally admits she's developed some interest in someone. When pressed about who, she says she mentioned him earlier. The professor awkwardly guesses it's Duod, and a tense silence follows. She warns her that if Archduke Tristan finds out, it'll create a huge mess. She checks whether Duod treats Elnore well and cautions her to be cautious, given her connection to House Tristan. Elnore decides to take things into her own hands and plans to watch him closely. Duod checks the academy notice board and is surprised they can't even tell him what class he's in yet. They're all caught up in some project aiming for the best results, so he's just hoping for good news. Still, he's trying to keep his expectations low and just wants to be placed in an older class. He figures if he sticks to the rules, he won't end up in the special class like Elia. His stats window lights up, showing he's completed his first main quest, and now he's got to deal with the freshman reception ceremony, where they'll decide everyone's class: archer, warrior, mage, priest. His class will depend on what he decides to focus on. Like Elia, who's going with a sword, he's leaning toward a strength-based build. While checking the character info for Elnore and Elia, he realizes some major chaos is about to unfold with the final boss and the main quest colliding. Then his stats window drops some crazy news. He can copy one of Elnore's skills. He freaks out. Snagging a skill from the final boss is wild, but decides to hold off since she's way too strong. For now, he just needs to gear up for the event in 3 days. That night, he sneaks into the old equipment warehouse. After managing to get past a few security measures, he reaches the SR treasure farming spot. Once he scales the wall, he starts picking up recovery and stamina skills. Inside, he finds a ton of stuff, but the real gem is the Ultrema of the Divinity, a burner packed with ancient power from 1,000 years ago. Just as he looks up, the equipment pile starts to wobble, and everything crashes down on him. When the dust settles, he bumps heads with a girl, Uria, the greyhounted chick and boss of Chapter 2, known as the Cursed Sword Goddess. The item he grabbed used to belong to her. Out of nowhere, she vanishes, and a warning pops up saying he's in serious trouble. Suddenly, Uria reappears behind him, and desperate survival kicks in at X rank. He apologizes for disturbing her, but she's not having any of it. She jumps straight into an action showdown with him. Back in the day, it was just a simple duel with Elia, but now, it's a totally different vibe. It's life or death. Our guy is shouting at Uria, trying to clear up the whole misunderstanding about what happened while she was asleep. Even with his EX rank strength, his body feels like it's on fire. Uria's losing her mind, and he's begging her to hear him out while dodging her wild attacks. Uria's furious, swinging that chain whip like there's no tomorrow. Luckily, he's got a tip or two to avoid getting nailed. She goes for a strike right at his face, but stops just short. There's a weird rule. Any enemy who gets too close, like within 3.5 steps, is done for. But she can't budge an inch herself. Something's definitely up with her curse. She quietly asks if he can step forward, and he's left wondering why he should. Her serious vibe confirms he's not getting out of this mess. Suddenly, she looks surprised, and he realizes this is her personal space, totally isolated from everyone, even the teachers. So, he offers her some snacks that could boost her stamina. When she sees him do that, Uria gets mad, asking if he's really trying to bribe her with food. But when he tosses a biscuit, she pounces on it like a puppy needing a treat. That could have ended badly for him. Uria asks who he is and what he's doing there. He fesses up that he's there to steal, but keeps it vague. Instead, he mentions someone told him to look after her and keep her fed. Then he brings up her sister doing well in the Holy Empire, which really catches her off guard. He lets her know that the Emperor isn't going to care about them for a bit, but she seriously needs to lay low. Yuri is originally from the Holy Empire and has been hiding out in Elfante. Her sword has a nasty rep, and being its binding vessel means she's stuck with a curse. She's probably been dealing with a lot and feeling hopeless. The next day at the academy, someone's giving the scoop on the academic building, talking about the gym and arcade. Ophelia goes over how they'll need to choose their majors and minors during the reception ceremony in a few days. She promises to explain more about the majors later. This is just a tutorial event where everyone's getting the lowdown about this world, but he can't just skip it. A student asks Ophelia if that's the notorious Void Zone, and she confirms it but warns it's a no-go zone. The Void Zone is left over from the massive war between heaven and hell, where gods, messengers, and warriors trapped demons. Even after all these years, the battle between death and the divine is still alive. That's why the Holy Empire, tribal territories, and other factions set up the Golden Triangle to keep things in check. Someone asks if they can get a closer look, but she explains they can only stand at the edge of a protective barrier to stay safe. Meanwhile, our main guy is thinking about lunch and maybe coming back later. The angels, who can flip mountains and dry oceans, put up this barrier. When they finally reach their spot, Ophelia announces it's lunchtime. He feels thankful to the academy for allowing them to get this close, but asks Ophelia if he can sit a bit further away since he's feeling a bit uneasy. She tells him not to wander off too far. One of the classmates gets annoyed, thinking the country bumpkin is acting all fancy just because he's getting some attention. Daud starts mixing up some wild stuff like powdered unicorn horn, a feather bone from a phoenix, and a fan made of coral berry. Then he takes a deep breath and blows into this portable thurible he calls the Ultima of Divinity. Suddenly, a portal starts to open up and he realizes he might have forgotten something. He came all this way to use it, hoping to connect with beings that normal folks can't even begin to imagine reaching. Inside the portal, a bunch of mysterious figures were chatting about the Allied forces. They were arguing about whether to just flatten everything instead of installing a drain. The boss called out the recruiters, questioning if they thought flattening was the same as digging. They were angels and our guy was just hanging back, hoping he wouldn't get noticed. The boss yelled at one recruiter for just standing around, while our guy just watched the minions work away. Suddenly, a truck pulled up with loud horns blaring. An angel girl announced that the holy mud bricks had arrived and told everyone to unload them. The driver noticed someone snacking and told her to save her energy for driving. The senior angel reminded everyone that their higher-ups were already busy. As they started unloading the bricks, they realized the food delivery was late. Daud figured out there was a reason the angels couldn't jump in to help whenever they felt like it. They operated like a military unit with a strict rank and chain of command. He knew what they wanted, something simple to eat. So he pulled out some food and started munching. The angels saw him and began chatting about what he had. Watching him eat made them hungry too. Daud called out, inviting them over to share instead of working themselves to the bone. The senior angel felt touched and called for a 10-minute break. There were not just sweat rolls, but also some steaks. The senior angel complimented our guy for being sensible and mentioned that their world's rules were different from the physical one. Just one serving was enough for all of them. After enjoying that snack, the senior angel asked for the thurible and wondered if our guy had come looking for something. He said he'd bless it if it was reasonable. Our guy was stunned since he had come prepared with negotiation cards, but hadn't expected things to be this easy. The angel guessed our dude must have some good info since he had an ability, but hadn't worked on it yet. He suggested it would be worth it later, so he should definitely put some effort into it. The angel mentions that his gift is way stronger than he realizes, but it's totally up to him how he uses it. Because of this gift, he's gotten mixed up with a monster that's both tough and friendly. He thinks that once he gets the thurible, he'll whip up some plans to stay alive. The angel points out that a regular person would probably freak out, but he's chill and strategizing because he's meant for something great. The angel tells him to have faith in himself. Then, just like that, the portal shuts and they're gone. Daud is pushing himself hard to survive, but the angel warns him to really think about his choices. The Ultima of Divinity packs some serious power. One part is all about asceticism, which can boost his stats by turning them into constitution. There's also a shield for protection. He figures the angel hooked him up with some solid blessings. Since constitution is tied to health, his desperation to live could seriously amp up his stats. Another crucial thing is evolution. Stuff in this world can get stronger over time, but that's a bit tricky for someone like him, who doesn't have related traits yet. As he can't use mana right now, he'll need some temporary solutions. He heads back to one of the Academy minions who suggested teaming up. The minion asks where his partner is. Daud says she'll show up soon. The minion jokes about who would want to team up with someone like him, but Daud insists that his partner is actually popular and will be there any minute. Out of nowhere, Ellie appears and asks if this is the monster research department. Daud waves at her, having changed his mind about getting involved with the protagonist. He reminds her that she mentioned they should get to know each other. Ellie looks a bit thrown off and recalls Elnore's comments about him, insisting they're nothing. When Daud reaches out his hand, she's confused, thinking he's lost it and trying to make her jealous. At the Academy's mock dungeon, Elia asks Daud if he's really sure about diving into this. He tells her to trust him and just follow his lead. He warns her there are 3 monsters ahead, and as they move in, Elia takes them down like it's nothing. Daud mentions 2 more drop from the ceiling, along with some bat creatures, and he's trying to figure out their weak spots. But Elia cuts through them easily. She tells Daud to stop bossing her around, but he keeps pointing out where the attacks are coming from. He tells her to be patient as more come flying at her, and she handles them all like a pro. Then he warns her about arrows from the side and a surprise attack behind her. She blocks them, getting annoyed. If he knows all this, he should be helping out more. He wishes he could, but his stats are terrible, all F ranks. Since it's just a mock fight, his desperate survival skill won't activate against these fake monsters. Suddenly, she charges at him and he gets nervous, wondering if he's been too commanding, but she easily takes out the monster behind him. They eventually take down all the monsters, and as the fight wraps up, ribbons start flying around them. Someone mentions their crazy speed and how they broke the previous record. Daud can't wrap his head around what just happened since she was the one doing most of the fighting, but she snagged the record. He tells her they just got lucky. The next challenge is tougher, but they keep grinding through it. Elia's still steaming and holding on to her frustration. Dean is keeping an eye on both of them since they're doing great. She's Percy, the Dean of Spellcraft, and thinks they'll need to throw more funds at battles ahead. She asks Conrad for his take, and he says the one he's watching watching is doing well. Dean checks if he's talking about a woman, but he clarifies it's actually Daud. She questions if he's just riding the warrior candidate's coattails, but Conrad insists his timing and positioning show he's got real experience. Every move looks calculated like he's been in battle before. Conrad throws out the idea of making a bet. He grabs the mic and announces that he and Dean are willing to wager. If they can beat their own record from freshman year, they get to make a request of Percy, who's not thrilled about it. That record is already a big deal, and the request seems pretty far-fetched, but Daud jumps in confidently, saying they can totally do it. Dean rolls his eyes and tells him to check out our guy. Conrad's all in on their success and tells them to get going. Meanwhile, Chick tells Elnore she's kind of overdoing it. Elnore, exhausted from practice, mentions there's something she wants to remember. When she was younger, her mom taught her some moves, and she's trying to bring them back. She thinks there might be something off about the Tristan bloodline, like it comes with insane talent but also random bouts of craziness. It's this weird mix that makes the Tristans achieve so much yet have pretty miserable later years. Elnore reassures herself that she's not stressed about it right now and wonders why she needs to be careful. Then Chick brings up our guy, saying he's with this term's warrior candidate. Elnore's curious and asks who that is. Chick explains it's Elia, the girl who fought Daud. When Elnore realizes they're paired up because of the mock battle requirements, she breathes a sigh of relief and tells Chick to take her there. Elia asks our guy what he's thinking for his plan. She knows he's got mad skills, but is a bit skeptical about going for the all-time record. She points out his huge self-confidence and wants to understand his reasoning. Meanwhile, he thinks it's easier to hit weak spots since those artificial monsters stick to their movement patterns, something he could definitely share with her. He tells her he's going all out because she's right there with him. On the flip side, Conrad and Dean are ready for their bet. Dean mentions they can tweak the difficulty for the final section, and our guy boldly suggests cranking it up to the max. Dean can't believe a freshman would go that hard and thinks it's pretty reckless, but our guy feels the risk is worth it. Conrad decides to roll with it. Elia shoots him a worried look, so he tries to calm her down, saying there's no point in being nervous now since it's all set. Dean still can't wrap his head around Conrad's decision, asking if they do this every time. Elia starts to panic while Dean and Conrad debate. Curious about our guy's confidence, Conrad says if things go bad, their priority will be saving everyone. He signals everyone to switch to slaughter mode and tells our guy to step it up. Elia jumps in, saying it's time to move. Daud gears up because things are about to get wild. As monsters swarm him, he powers up. The danger level is insane, but he dives right in, slicing through them like they're nothing. Conrad is in shock and yells to Percy if she's seeing this. Elia says she always believed in him, while Percy can't believe it. He used to be a total noob. Conrad thinks maybe he was just playing it cool and can't hold it against him. He'd freak out too if he hadn't seen it himself. As time goes by, the monsters get tougher, just like him, so it's a race against the clock. Elia steps back, struggling against the big ones, and calls out to Daud. He then busts out Tristan's sword technique, La Volpe, and lands a flurry of strikes, taking down the last monster in no time. Daud and Elia totally crush the challenge and smash the record. Someone shouts for him to get down. It's Conrad, casually munching on a monster like it's a snack. He claims he set an unbeatable record. No one expected a freshman to take down those monsters so easily. Elia, worn out, calls to Conrad, who gives her props too. They both score a cool item from the Vision warehouse and get to ask the dean for a favor. Elia's surprised since freshmen don't usually get that kind of stuff. She notices that our guy always keeps it chill. No matter what goes down, he acts like he knows how things will turn out. It's probably because he really does. Then she calls out to him, asking if he's planning to do that fist bump thing as friends. He's not into that stuff, but gives her a fist bump anyway, making her curious. With a big smile, she heads out, saying she'll see him tomorrow. Out of nowhere, someone chimes in, saying they can't tell if she's just friendly or kinda strange. He agrees, then suddenly freaks out when he realizes it's Elnore. She asks if he's into that new guy, and he's totally thrown off. He figures that since he's not feeling the pressure to survive, she probably isn't planning to make a move on him. They're not dating or anything. She keeps probing about whether he likes the fresher dude, and he realizes he should probably respond. So, he nervously calls out to her, admitting he's been training with Elia, but wanted to check in on Elnore. As soon as he says it, he wonders why he even let that slip. She's clearly flattered and asks if he missed her, and he nods. She wants to know why, but just as he's about to explain, she interrupts, telling him to forget it. Maybe they're just those kinds of friends, and he gets it. It's probably because she pulled him out of that sticky situation on the train. Then she hands him a letter, saying that's what she came for. Now he's stuck wondering if it's a love letter or some kind of challenge, since that definitely wasn't in the original story. She mentions she was gonna give it to him tomorrow and leaves, reminding him to open it when he's alone. He scratches his head, totally perplexed, but goes along with it. After thinking it over, he realizes she wants him to be her partner. Tomorrow's the freshman welcome party, which he totally spaced out on. Partnering up isn't a huge deal. He He just needs to hang out with her at the party. The tricky part is what happens if he says no. Her interest might drop and things could get awkward. Just then, someone knocks at the door. It's Elia. He kinda saw that coming. She hands him another letter and he's like, really? Another one? She picks up on his confusion and asks if someone else gave him something. He brushes it off, feeling a bit panicked for a second. She says she made her decision during the mock battle. Because of some student council rules, she rushes out, telling him to hurry and read it. As she bounces off, she gives a quick glimpse of her thighs, adding a little flair to her exit. He's holding his head up, wondering why there are so many oddballs around. He figures it's probably just another partner or challenge request. But when he opens it, he's hit with a surprise. It's a partner request. Now he's stuck between the final boss and the main character, and he starts banging his head in frustration. This is not how the original story went. If he picks Elnore, he'll be seen as the villain. Choosing Elia means he'd be on the final boss's bad side, which could end badly for him. He thinks about turning both down but feels totally lost. This mess seems to be happening since they're both still in the entrusted stage. Then he wonders if he should just go ahead and accept them both. The next day at the freshman party, everyone's mingling, gathering around the kids from each class. A lot of students are dressed up, and then there's Elia, who's clearly not a fan of the crowd. He shows up and she's happy to see him. She calls out to him, but he's acting all cold and distant. They decide to wander off together. Turns out he's a clone walker, which means he can create a clone of himself. He had to spend all his points for it, even though the clone is just a stand-in while he's off doing his thing. The event is a double date, and he's got to figure out how to juggle a date with both Elnore and Elia without getting caught. He opts for a clone called the Cold Gentleman because he's worried about being seen with both his clone and himself in the same place. Just when he's starting to sort things out, a commotion catches his attention. It's some monster locked up in a carriage, and he suspects they're about to experiment on it. The main event kicks off, and he thinks surviving with Elnore and Elia shouldn't be too hard. Plus, he gets this second personality called Pheromone, styled like a total Rizzler. Right after he gets that one, Elnore catches him off guard, asking about this weird smell in the air, wondering if he sprayed something. Our Rizzler plays it cool and says the flowers smell nice, totally driving Elnore wild. Completely blindsided, he starts trying to figure out what's going on with these pheromones. Elnore seems really affected by him but is trying to play it cool. She calls him out, questioning if he really doesn't see what's happening. Honestly, he's way more manly than she thought, which kind of throws him off. He suggests they check out the event and cruise the stalls. Right now, he's thinking the clone and Elia should be meeting up, and he needs to make sure they don't run into each other. Elnore tells him to relax, but he's just hoping nothing messes up. If things keep going this way, all he has to do is be the escort for both of them. As they stroll, he grabs some skewers, thinking this might be the worst choice for Elnore since she's always watching what she eats. She teases him about how he knew she liked them, or if it was just luck. He wonders if she noticed that he's not really into wild boars. She calls him out, asking if he's still chowing down. He's just trying to keep things friendly while maintaining some space. Then Elnore asks if they sell accessories and if he needs anything. He decides to buy her something, but still wants to keep her feelings in check. He picks a button, thinking it's going to be a terrible gift. Turns out she actually needed one for her uniform, and now he's flattered all over again. While they munch, Elnore asks if he's picked his majors yet. He tells her he's planning to major in theology. She suggests it'd be a waste of talent not to join the Knights, but he explains he's got his reasons. Curious, she asks what he wants to learn, and he says it's something important to protect what matters to him. When she presses for more, he mentions an upcoming event, the whole secret society incident, and how the boss is weak against holy skills. She wonders if that's why he's getting involved with her. He explains it's also connected to a family curse that drives his relatives insane, and that mental training might be the only way to fight it. Elnore asks if he knows the solution, and he starts talking about angels' blessings, like how 2 archangels can bless one person. It's tricky to pull off, which is why people still fear the Tristan family. Then she wonders why he always shows up when someone tries to hurt her. He admits that what he really wants to do is protect her. Surprised, she asks why. He straightforwardly explains that if he doesn't look after her, he's in serious trouble. She realizes he's dead serious and calls him a strange guy, and he's just hoping this clears up her curiosity. Meanwhile, Elia can't stop thinking about the guy. Is he mad at her? Why isn't he talking much? She feels like she should get to know him better to learn more about the Tristan family, but has no idea how to deal with someone like him. She decides to check out the basement and notices a bunch of monsters around, probably part of some weird experiment. The professors are idiots for leaving them there. She even spots some big ones and wonders if there are even larger ones lurking nearby. Then she sees a sticky bomb attached to a cage and it blows up. Our guy's clone jumps in to save her. Daud and Elnore hear the explosion from where they are. The clone manages to rescue Elia, and she can't help but ask why he did it. He says it's just part of his job. She's taken aback and calls out as the monsters are now right in front of them. Letting out a sigh of relief, she thanks him and decides it's her turn to protect him now, so the main quest to sort everything out kicks off. Daud takes off, leaving Elnore behind, but he tells her to look for one of the priests. She asks him to wait, but he insists they need to protect the students. When he gets to the basement, the clown shows up too and calls out to Elia, asking about the monsters. She's super glad he's awake, and her feelings for him are starting to grow. Things have changed, and she actually misses one of the bigger monsters, the bear from earlier. She's exhausted but says they can take it down quickly, though she thinks they should take a quick breather first. He checks in to see if she's okay. Everyone's totally freaked out by the bear. The priest is holding onto a barrier to keep everyone safe, but it looks like it's about to give out. With neither the Chancellor nor the professor around, they can't use the angel's blessing. Elnore questions if the priest is really doing his job since the students are in danger, but he insists he can't use the blessing. He claims the knight should show up soon, so they just need to hang tight. He also makes some comments linking the experimental monsters to the Tristan family, which really annoys Elnore. Then out of nowhere, Daud shows up, all rushed and ready to jump into action. He snatches the pendant from the priest, who starts yelling at him to give it back since blessings aren't meant for students. But Daud isn't backing down. He mixes the Ultrema of divinity with the rosary, and his skills like asceticism and holy shield light up. Warnings about danger start flashing. His EX rank skill kicks in just as the huge bear spots him. Daud says he'll buy some time for the students to get away. Asceticism activates, boosting his stats and turning them into constitution. He forms a holy barrier, and when the bear swipes at him, its claws hit the barrier and get blocked. Everyone's totally shocked. It looks like some kind of angel's blessing. The bear goes crazy, throwing a bunch of punches, but it can't even scratch him. Elnore's wondering how a regular student can handle that. The priest is gritting his teeth, realizing he had to pray for years to get to that level. Elnore's jaw drops, but she's kinda used to it by now. She's starting to see that he's held back his real potential way too many times. The priest can't believe his eyes that a simple monster can't even break through a barrier. Someone jumps in, asking Elnore if she's even a professor since she's not helping out, and Elnore snaps back asking if they are. It's Elia, who shows up all apologetic while making jokes. Elnore wants to know why it took her so long, and Elia says she passed out in the basement. Daud's not too happy about the fact that he has to train for a decade to use the blessing properly. Elnore thinks that means he'll have to wait 10 years before he can really access that holy energy. Then she remembers Daud talking about what he wanted to study in theology. If he hadn't protected her, he'd be in big trouble. Honestly, he wouldn't have any other reason to do it, which leaves her pretty stunned. Elia mentions that if it's a stored blessing, there's a limit to how much he can control. Elnore asks her to explain, and Elia says Daud is doing all this for the Tristan family, and for her. Otherwise, there's no way he'd go through all this, which makes Elnore wonder if she sensed that from the start. Then there's this weird moment when Elnore sits in complete darkness. She looks ahead, and a bright spot of light shows up and gets brighter. Finally, she decides to jump into action, thinking Daud is seriously one of a kind. Elia shouts for the president and struggles to keep the barrier up. She dives in and starts slashing at the giant bear with her sword. The bear roars in pain from the hit. Watching all of this, Daud starts to wonder if Tristan's sword skills are the real deal. Elnore decides to jump in too, and unleashes a rapid-fire series of strikes on the bear, moving so fast it's like a blur. Before long, the bear is bleeding heavily. Then Elnore goes for the big finish, aiming right for the bear's head. She pulls off an amazing move called Tramontana, hitting it with such force that the monster gets sent flying back and explodes on impact. Daud is left in shock, realizing Elnore's skills are way beyond what he thought. In the original story, she never jumped into fights like this. They usually handled monsters without anyone getting hurt. All the professors who support experimenting on live monsters see eye to eye with Tristan. If Elnore steps in, it's like she's admitting that her family was in serious trouble. He's really confused about why Elnore is stepping in to help, since politics isn't usually her thing. Everything feels off to him, so he decides to speed things up. They all manage to get away, and Elnore finally puts her sword away with a huge sigh, seeming relieved that it's all done. But Daud knows the fight isn't over yet. The monster jumps out of the fire, ready to strike. He calls out to Elnore, who's taken by surprise, but he jumps in and uses his blessing to save her again. Even after taking some heat from the flames, the monster keeps coming, looking all kinds of terrifying with just its skull and bones left. It hits hard, and Daud starts to feel himself fading away. When he wakes up, there's a girl next to him who says the monsters are taken care of, and that Elnore is all right. Turns out she's Chancellor Adelante.
She adds that all the students are safe too.
Caught off guard to see her, he realizes they haven't really had a chance to catch up since freshman year. Adelante, who's been around for 1,000 years and is immortal, sparks Daud's curiosity about why she's here. He wonders if it has something to do with him using the angel's blessing. Then she hits him with some bad news, followed by even worse news. She asks if he wants the bad news first, and he goes with that. She warns him that he's going to keep getting caught up in unfortunate stuff. He definitely doesn't want that, but then she hits him with more bad news and asks how much he really knows about demons. Noticing how he reacted, unexpected, she points out that he doesn't seem worried at all, even with the academy president bringing up some serious stuff. He says he's just trying to keep things to himself because he's not sure what her deal is. Adelante raises an eyebrow and asks what he means by scheming. He tells her he's the only one without a class to join, which is pretty frustrating. She snaps her fingers, saying that she had to do some damage control because of recent events. She adds that the current hegemony is fully committed to recruiting talented people, even if it means going to extremes. Daud wonders if the chaos in the Holy Empire and the new throne heir are tied to all this. Adelante seems a bit worried about him too. She starts explaining the Golden Triangle concept, mentioning that even though the regions are neighbors, they're in fierce competition, affecting the whole continent. He thinks that everything he's been involved in should have caught their attention, but they still haven't made a move, which doesn't add up unless someone had to follow a description. She acknowledges that he's got some political smarts as well, and agrees it would be a disaster if they noticed him. She lays out a scenario that surprises him, then pulls out a seal and asks if he recognizes it. She explains that this is why he asked about demons. It's the seal of the Purifiers. Seeing the mix of emotions on his face, she wonders if he's already in the loop. The Purifiers are this secretive group that worships demons and works behind the scenes. Their main goal is to bring about the end of the world by summoning demons. They've been tied to assassination attempts on Elnore and other terrible incidents aimed at the Tristan family, and they might strike again. He asks her why she's sharing this info. She says that even though she can't explain why, she needs him to take this. It's an interdimensional key, a total game changer that can open doors to other worlds. She can tell from his face that he might get what it is. She tells him to look after it and asks him to keep her posted on his progress. If she likes what he brings back, she'll throw in some extra perks. Then she reminds him to keep their chats under wraps. After that, she asks how things are going with the warrior candidate and the Lady of Tristan. He feels a little annoyed by the question, but just says everything's fine. She hopes it stays that way, which makes him wonder if there's more to it. When she warns that the world might end if he doesn't do something, he gets worried and starts thinking about why things could go south so fast. He realizes she's telling the truth and figures that the only way to make their plan work is with those three. As he steps outside, he can't help but stare at the interdimensional key, kind of in disbelief that players could actually get their hands on something like that. Now he's questioning if something's really off with the main scenario. Out of nowhere, Conrad shows up saying he was looking for him. Daud asks if Conrad was really searching for him, and Conrad replies that even though Daud doesn't have a class assigned yet, he can't just let him skip all the lessons.
He hands Daud a list, telling him that starting tomorrow, he'll be in class with these people.
Seeing the list sends Daud into a panic. Both Elnore and Elia are in that class. Now he's seriously worried, feeling like the end of the world is actually coming. The next day in class, while the professor is going on about swords, Elnore chimes in, saying she doubts that info will actually help in a fight. She points out that even the best knights can get taken out by ranged attacks. Elia jumps in, backing up the professor, insisting that as long as a swordsman knows how to use their surroundings, they can dodge or block incoming attacks. Plus, if things get too close for comfort, they don't have to resort to going barehanded. Elnore and Elia are kind of butting heads here. Elia tells Elnore that if she's not feeling the lecture, she should just bounce. Elnore snaps back that, as the student president, she has to make sure the education is up to snuff. Elia tells her to quit interrupting, and things start heating up until our guy steps in asking if they can just get back to class. Elia sees that as a win, while Elnore thinks of it as a slight setback. Meanwhile, the other students are getting a bit fed up, and Daud notices everyone staring, so he figures it's best to shift the focus back to their stuff. He checks Elnore's trust level. It's sitting at 5. He scores a reward with proficiency in Tristan's sword technique, which means he's actually got a handle on it now. He also picks up a breathing technique that boosts stamina. The two are vibing well together, though only Elnore can really make the most of it since her close combat skills are off the charts. Elia's curiosity level is also at 5, and he gets a reward called Rule of Evil, which lets him mess with the good folks around him. In the next class, Conrad gathers the group for Survival 101 and tells them to head into the forest and bring back anything they can find. They've got 10 minutes, no breaks, no scoring, just him and Elnore keeping track. Elia seems pretty stoked about it. Our guy's trying to figure out how to keep his friends close and his enemies even closer while brainstorming ways to turn good people bad. Then out of nowhere, Elia jumps in and asks if he wants to team up. He brushes her off, telling her to stick with her friends. She smiles and reminds him he's a friend too, but he insists she should hang out with her crew. She keeps pushing to work together, while her fellow minion watches, thinking she's becoming a third wheel. Flirting a bit, She asks if something's bothering him. He plays it cool, saying it's nothing and brings up how they aren't even that close, leaving Elia totally speechless. Elia's expression shifts to serious, and she shrugs it off, saying it's a bummer. Tarisha notices she looks worried, and our guy starts to feel like he might have been too harsh. Suddenly, someone shouts out to Daud, asking about his relationship with the warrior candidates. It's Talion, the top student after Elia and a future mid-boss. Our guy wonders how Talion even knows her, and gets mad at the thought of her hanging out with him. And now he's calling our guy's duel sketchy. Our guy sees a status update. He triggered the anger condition. Meanwhile, Talion starts rambling about the duel. He casually tells Talion the duel was legit, but maybe Talion wishes it wasn't. Watching his goal get wiped out like that must really sting. Elia picks up on the drama too. And irritated, Talion suggests they make a bet on who can score higher on the assignment, and Daud thinks it's a solid idea too. Meanwhile, Conrad shouts over to Elnore, asking why she's acting like scoring isn't a big deal. Elnore insists she's being serious, but Conrad can't help but point out that Daud has a max score even though he hasn't turned in his work yet. Elnore defends him, saying he deserves it, which seems to bug Daud. Elnore then says she should keep an eye on Daud to back up her point. She mentions she'll be right back, but Conrad tells her to wait. He thinks she's trying to hang around Daud. But Elnore insists it's just so he won't be alone with warrior candidate A's because something might go down. So off she goes to check on him. Meanwhile, Tarisha notices that Elia seems a little off. But despite that, Elia is taking down monsters left and right. Some classmates see the monsters gathering and wonder if there's something going on nearby. They speculate it could be because of some rare mineral region, which could mean gems for them, so they hope they can avoid a low score. At the same time, a strange dark spot shows up on Elia's chest while she's fighting. This spot reflects all her negative feelings, even if it doesn't look that way. Trisha calls out, asking how Elia's been lately. Elia puts on a cheerful front and tries to brush it off, claiming nothing much is happening. Trisha pushes her, saying that if there's something bothering her, she's there to help. Elia brushes it off again, leading Trisha to raise an eyebrow. Trisha suspects there's more going on and worries that Elia's emotions might get the best of her. Boldly, she states that she knows something's on Elia's mind. Elia flops, down against a tree, exhaling a big sigh and admitting that she really can't hide anything from Trisha. Trisha points out that Daud is still keeping his distance, but all she really wants is to be his friend. Elia brings up that they've been through a lot together and needed to set some boundaries. Trisha thinks Daud's intentions might be a bit off. When Elia asks what she means, Trisha explains that Daud comes from a poor background. On the flip side, Daud is totally freaking out, sprinting for his life because Talion has completely lost it, and he's fully tapped into his dark side, gaining some crazy powers. Talion is hell-bent on taking him down, swinging his spear and yelling for Daud to stop running and fight him like a real man. Daud tells Talion to chill for a sec and just wait. Talion, all confused, halts, and then Daud starts joking around, asking if he wants to split the loot right down the middle. This just makes Talion even angrier, and he unleashes a killer strike, hurling a spear charged with lightning. Out of nowhere, the spear gets intercepted, leaving both guys stunned. Turns out, Elia shows up just in time and breaks the spear into a bunch of pieces. Furious, she tells Talion to keep his hands off her friend. Talion's caught off guard and mentions it's been ages since they last met, especially after all those monsters broke free. Elia quickly brushes that off, saying he's totally wrong since this is their first encounter since he lost to her. Talion's totally confused, wondering where she even popped up from. When Talion says it's nice to see her, Elia jumps right in, asking what he was about to do and insists he shouldn't even say he was bothering him. Out of nowhere, she kicks him hard in the leg, sending him crashing awkwardly to the ground. With her sword pointed at him, she makes it clear she doesn't want to hear any excuses, and Talion, looking really scared, mumbles that he gets it. When he calls Daud a liar, she insists he's just trying to teach a lesson. He's never mean for no reason. Then she asks if Talion really wants to get knocked out in one hit, which definitely makes him think twice. He ends up kneeling and apologizing to Daud, promising to steer clear of him. After that, Elia steps back and walks off, leaving both Talion and Daud in shock, realizing she's pretty good at dishing out lessons. Talion wonders if they're still cool and figures they probably are. The main thing on his mind is whether he's gonna get graded on this whole situation. As Daud heads back, someone calls out his name. It's Trisha, and she mentions they've crossed paths before. Daud suddenly realizes she's friends with Elia. She seems a bit hesitant and says it might be a bother. Just as she's about to ask something, Daud cuts her off, saying he wants to focus on his score first. Trisha thinks he's trying to rush her into a fight. On his way back, Daud's shocked to see Conrad just chilling over an unconscious Elnore. Conrad Conrad explains she insisted on going into the forest, but he made sure she couldn't get through without a fight. He jokes that Elnore is doing better than before and wonders if she's just playing dead. Conrad reminds him they're still in class and asks why he's got so much stuff. Daud wanted to grab the best ingredients. As he shows off his bags full of gems, Conrad jumps in, saying he's in first place. He's sure Percy would be all over what he's got if he shares it. Conrad believes he's totally nailed the assignment and suggests he should go for some extra credit. Daud says he'll think about it, and Trisha chimes in, asking if he's done. Conrad then tells Daud he can bounce since class is over and asks Trisha to keep an eye on Elnore. Trisha tells him to keep an eye on Elia because every time she talks about him, she seems totally out of it. Daud is grateful for the heads up and promises to help out. While Trisha is busy with Elnore, Elia might not realize she could go overboard. Daud then heads to the spellcraft department, where the dean asks if he wants to use his one wish. He admits he needs something from her, but thinks she can't handle anything too complicated. She argues that if he didn't use his wish, no one would have to work at all, but he feels like he needs to be prepared for anything, with the big boss fight coming up. The dean mentions that the Chancellor told her to help him out as much as she can. She's down to help unless he tries something shady and asks what he actually needs. Just then, a system update pops up, letting him know he got Elia's gift reward, 500 points and a Seed of Evil. He can trade those for some cool skills. Elia's negative seal gets a stack, and he can use the Rule of Evil once. Talion's seal gets a stack too, and he can use that once as well. The special skills are way better than any items. They're useful for now, but he knows he still needs to prepare more. Suddenly, a mysterious figure appears, giving off a dark vibe and clearly thinking Daud is too weak to handle the purifier. Meanwhile, Daud insists he needs a cannon, one that could blow the whole academy away. This weird request totally stops Dean in her tracks, and she starts questioning his sanity. I mean, making the request is one thing, but where does he even plan to use it? Our guy just mentions how it clearly says she has to handle any ordinary request. Something like this should be a piece of cake for Dean or spellcraft. Frustrated, she asks if he wants her to whip up a weapon, but that's definitely not ordinary. He insists he won't use it to hurt anyone, claiming he's got something to take care of in one shot before it becomes a hassle. That makes her a bit uneasy, but she figures he has his reasons. Plus, he did help out with those monsters not too long ago, so she decides to make him that cannon. It's crazy to think the Chancellor lets him have his own harem and is supposed to save the world too. When she asks about the harem, Dean freaks out, trying to explain she was just talking to herself. He manages to calm her down. She nervously asks if there's anything else he needs. He gives her a nod, mentioning he was promised one item from the Vision warehouse. He asks if she can help him out with it now. Daud gets the green light for the cannon. All he needs to do is gather the materials. There's a list of everything he can collect using the Interdimensional key, and so far everything seems lined up perfectly. Then, someone suddenly shows up in Daud's path and calls out to him, asking if he's Daud. After he confirms, the guy thinks it's just a coincidence they ran into each other. He introduces himself as Marquis and says he runs a charity called Purifying House. Daud can't shake the feeling it's a scam to launder money. Turns out Marquis is actually the chapter boss of a crew called the Purifiers. He tells Daud he heard about him taking down an escaped monster all alone. Marquis hands him a card, pointing out that having the guts to duel isn't just bravery, it's something special. Daud raises an eyebrow, and Marquis keeps going on about how hyped he gets seeing students with that kind of potential. He invites Daud to dinner and says he'll catch him in 3 days at the Eyes of Twilight. It's just like the original story where this guy was supposed to approach Elia, but now he's chatting with Daud instead. Daud wonders if the system sees him as the main character, but brushes it off. The Eyes of Twilight is a swanky restaurant right by the academy. Looking at the shiny invitation, he knows he can't just skip this. Thinking back to previous times, he realizes it's all about weighing options. There's no clear yes or no. He considers what he can do, what he knows, and what's still a mystery. Without that, taking down the purifier will be impossible. He's still puzzled about why he has to step into Elia's shoes, but decides to focus on what's in front of him. He knocks on the door, feeling a bit nervous as he calls out to Elnore, asking if she's around. She responds, asking what he's doing there, and he tells her he just wants to chat. After getting his thoughts together, he asks if she happens to be free in 3 days. She pauses to think. Meanwhile, her friend pipes up saying Elnore needs to return some books and worries about late fees, but Elnore quickly hushes her. Turning back to Daud, she seems curious about what he has in mind. He asks if she'd be free to go somewhere with him. Elnore asks if it's just the two of them. He mentions the Eyes of Twilight, and her friend gets all excited, saying it's a popular date spot which Elnore already knows. She then asks why he wants to take her there. Things get a little flirty, and Daud says he'll spill the details when they meet up. They're standing face to face through the door, and Elnore asks if he's paying. The scene shifts into a weird dream where someone's calling out to Elia, but she's like, "Don't talk to me." He apologizes and promises not to bother her again, but she calls him a liar. Turns out it's her older brother, and they're having a showdown about him pushing her down a hill earlier. With tears in her eyes, she tells him not to mess with his little sister. He claims it was just a joke and tries to smooth things over with some cookies. Elia raises an eyebrow, asking if he swiped them, but he insists they're just leftovers he picked up. Her brother brings up how, thanks to the Baron, he might get promoted to apprentice knight and could be heading off to battle soon. He talks about all the cool experiences he's going to have and how he might even earn the title of Guardian. Elia's curious how someone becomes a Guardian and bluntly asks if he'll die if he goes to war. He brushes it off, telling her not to worry about that. Annoyed, she snaps back that she hopes he gets unlucky and bites the dust since he always teases her, but he quickly reassures her that if he becomes a Guardian, he'll always be there to protect her. The whole thing feels like a fuzzy flashback, and then someone starts calling her name. When she opens the door, Daud pops up, scratching his head and awkwardly apologizing. He says he's still figuring things out since he's from the countryside and even brought some cookies for Elia. She hesitates, but decides it's cool since they're friends. Then he calls out for her to wait, asking if she can help him with something. Elia can't help but think he's a little off. Meanwhile, Elnore has a lot going on. Her assistant fills her in that they've wrapped up everything for the teaching materials and just need to sort out the transfer students. She mentions one from the tribal alliance, Lilu, the daughter of a tribe leader from a tribe that got taken down in a coup. When her assistant asks if Elnore knows her, Elnore just shrugs and says, maybe. Then, the assistant mentions that next semester, a real saintess from the Holy Empire is coming, along with some envoys. Just the thought of the saintess and Lilu gets Elnore tense. She sets her pen down, convinced the academy is up to something. She can't stop stressing about the tribal girl and the upcoming saintess. Suddenly, her assistant asks why she looks worried, and Elnore just brushes it off, saying she's in a bad mood. Meanwhile, Elia and Daud are chilling on the observational deck, staring up at the sky. They're both lying on a catapult, getting ready to launch into the air. Daud snagged it from the Vision warehouse, and they're about to head to a place only high-level users can reach. He presses the button, and while Elia's confused, the catapult shoots them off with a crazy force. Daud tells her to stay focused and keep her eyes open. Out of nowhere, a huge portal appears right in front of them. It's the entrance to the Interdimensional portal. Daud assures her that it might be a bit sketchy. The whole thing reminds her of her brother, who used to be super caring. Without wasting a second, they both jump into the portal, which then slams shut behind them. They land in this weird interdimensional place. Daud warns Elia not to touch anything since it could be risky. He starts bouncing around on the floating rocks because the gravity is all messed up. Elia's super worried about him, but they need to climb higher. He winks and tells her to just jump since the rocks are constantly shifting. Elia starts freaking out, convinced they're going to fall to their doom. Daud calms her down, and she finally decides to go for it, only to trip and start falling. Panicking, she calls out to him. Suddenly, a memory from her past hits her hard. There are flames everywhere, and she's screaming for her brother. She asks if they're really leaving their parents behind. He promises he'll take care of them and warns her to hide if she ever sees the descendants of Apocalypse. Crying, she asks what she'll do if he dies too, and begs him to run away with her. He tells her that if they both take off, they'll be in trouble. He reminds her he's supposed to protect her and tells her not to worry. He urges her to run as far as she can, and says they'll meet up on the hill where he always trains. Elia nods, agreeing to this plan. Her brother tells her to keep running while he stays back. Just then, Daud grabs Elia's hand before she can fall. She yells at him, asking where that gravity thing he mentioned is, and he reassures her that she's really just falling slowly. He tells her she'll get the hang of it and nudges her to look up as they continue on. They're on a floating rock with bubbles floating around. They're hunting the ghost of Gregory Pavilion, this weird, colorful, sauce-like creature. Daud manages to catch it and tosses it in his bag. Then he tells Elia they need to make a run for it. Soon enough, darkness starts creeping in as this huge interdimensional beast shows up. It's massive, like a giant whale, and they look tiny next to it. Daud reminds her to grab everything he drops, sending a ton of thick, bubbly sauce flying. Elia scoops some into her bag just as the beast is about to eat them. Luckily, they get teleported to the academy just in time. He thinks everything went perfectly and asks if she's all right. They both have their hands raised, but she snaps hers away, getting covered in the strange sauce. She asks if he planned all this, and with a grin, he says it went according to plan. He explains that he's just farming for the ghost of Gregory, a strategy from an old player. Annoyed, she asks why he didn't mention they were going to this interdimensional realm. He apologizes, but then notices that Elia's affection level has shot up, totally surprising him. He has no clue why that happened. Meanwhile, she walks away smiling, leaving him confused about the sudden change in her feelings. The Chancellor, Atalanta, is really sweating after some intense sessions. Daud jumps in, saying he's not sure what she thinks is going on, and calls it a psychic entity, all while she looks super hot and sweaty. She guesses he's tapped into the interdimensional realm, which he has, and she's surprised surprised he used the card she gave him so quickly. But what really grabs her attention is his hair. It looks totally messed up and burned. He lets her know it's because she hit him with lightning. He also hands over the ectoplasm to Percy, and she looks surprised. Atalanta says our guy will give her another gift if he manages to impress her, but he says he has a request instead. Since the psychic entities are the consciousness of great people, he wants to grant one. She asks if it will slowly wake up and get stronger. She says Daud makes the right choice, and as he explains more about the item, she cuts in, asking why he's doing this. He explains that he takes down an assassin, beats a warrior candidate, and recently holds off some monsters too. She wants to know why he's so focused on getting stronger. He says it's because the bosses in the main story are demon-level threats, and the end of the story involves Elnore and Elia, who are both tied up in this. He asks why she seems to favor him so much, and she's like, what do you mean by that? She probably has a bunch of questions too, like how he knows about interdimensional locations and psychic entities. Lately, everything at the academy seems to revolve around him. He notices Atalanta influencing both his studies and day-to-day life, so he asks what she really wants him to do to earn this favor. She realizes he's already aware of the special treatment, and he jokingly guesses it's just because he's too cute, which totally throws her off. Eventually, she agrees to hook him up with an item that has psychic abilities, which will definitely be handy later. At night, he's focused on the main quest, the Purifier. He's got to figure out this incident that's going to happen at the eyes of Twilight. Suddenly, Elnore calls out, asking if he's kept her waiting. Turns out she didn't wait too long, just about 6 hours. She looks stunning in that red dress, total waifu material tonight. He tells her she looks completely different, and she asks if it's his first time visiting a place like this. He confirms it is, feeling shy since it's his first time out with a girl off campus. He's trying to figure out if this is a date or not. As they get closer to the restaurant, it's packed, and he wonders if they'll even get in. Then he spots Talion working there, managing orders. He goes up to him asking what he's doing there. Talion explains that he's working part-time since his family doesn't send him an allowance. He notices Elnore and asks about their relationship, throwing our guy off. But Elnore quickly uses her authority as student council president to get a table, and Talion agrees. Daud notices that Talion is wearing a necklace called the Foundation of Purity. He tells him not to wear it today, and to make sure the other part-timers don't either. With a serious look, Talion gets it. Our guy figures the main story is shifting now that Elnore and Elia like him more, so he needs to steer Marquise's feelings his way. As they head inside, someone spots Elnore. It's Marquise. Our guy readies himself just in case. There's a main quest that kicks off with a villain trying to recruit our protagonist. It's Marquise who wants to borrow him for a quick chat. This catches Elnore off guard, and she questions who's making that call. Daud reassures her that it's all good and that they'll take her to the VIP room separately. Elnore looks puzzled, especially when Daud mentions it will only be a moment. Marquis comments on how close Daud seems to Tristan's daughter and asks them to follow him. They each sit down to talk. Marquise jumps right in, guessing that our protagonist knows why he's there. He reveals his plan, saying he intends to revive a demon to create chaos and bloodshed, harnessing important demonic energy. To achieve this, he's unleashing monsters to instill fear and awaken the demon hidden in the Tristan bloodline. Daud drops a major surprise by letting Marquise know that he's also informed the Chancellor about his plans. Marquis realizes why the Prophet favors Daud. He seems harmless, but there's more to him than meets the eye. Marquis informs his crew that they have Elnore under control, confident that Daud didn't see that coming. Meanwhile, Elnore is panicking. The thugs are yelling, expressing disbelief over the situation. Earlier, when they were escorting her, they joked about her being attacked by demon worshippers. Elnore, however, insists that there's nothing wrong with reporting them. A goon approaches her, asking if she can handle the situation. Suddenly, Elnore snaps into action, turning into a powerhouse. She slams the leader's head down onto the table in a fit of rage, leaving the others shocked. Although they surround her, they can't finish her off because they need her alive. Deciding to retreat, Elnore loses it completely, defeating the goons effortlessly. As Elnore charges in, their swords clash, but the goons' weapons feel flimsy compared to hers. Their blades start to break under her powerful strikes. Marquis watches in terror. Covered in blood, Elnore feels energized and her affection level increases. Daud jokes that if things keep going this way, their outing will be ruined, potentially requiring another visit, which even unlocks a new quest. Meanwhile, Marquis decides to pull out the demonic essence, thinking he won't need it, but Daud spots him and shouts at Elnore to stop him. Elnore looks confused, but ultimately swallows the essence, believing it will bring her divine favor. Suddenly, the entire building is engulfed in a dark aura. The entire building comes crashing down, and as our protagonist steps out, Marquis stands right in front of him, completely amazed. He expresses that he doesn't want to use his newfound power until they deal with the Prophet first. Marquis is transformed into a were-demon, tapping into demonic essence for a temporary power boost. All of this unfolds in just the first chapter. An alert pops up, informing him that he has managed to control the purifier and instructing him to keep the damage to a minimum. Determined, Marquis decides it's time to start the purification process. However, Daud believes the real problem lies with the man-eaters, the demon worshippers that Elnore had dealt with earlier. They have returned, completely insane and ready for a fight. Talion jumps in to take out a few of the monsters, but he's lost and confused about what's happening. He asks for feedback on his technique but is hit by a wave of fear. Talion realizes that wearing the necklace is the cause of this terror. He finally comprehends that Marquis is behind everything and needs to focus on protecting civilians while dealing with him. Daud thinks ahead and tells Talion to get out. Elnore asks if he knows where Marquis ran off to, and he deduces that the demon worshippers want the same thing, to spread chaos and despair. Their holy land is pandemonium, where Marquis has ended up. Daud knows he can't take out the entire barrier but can at least disrupt it. He lifts his hands and begins summoning demonic aura to blast it, but our protagonist jumps in and tells him to stop. Marquis can't believe Daud has found him. Daud laughs it off, saying it was obvious, especially with Marquis having some kind of demon backing him. The truth is, he made it here thanks to Elnore giving him a ride. Marquis mentions he saved Daud after searching for a while, but Daud reassures him that they'll stick together. Elnore, however, struggles to accept how much she trusts Marquis. Still adhering to her principles, she charges in to attack. She knocks Marquis back, sending him flying. Our protagonist yells for her to come his way. Marquis tells him not to run and unleashes a massive wave of attacks. Our protagonist dodges just in time, leaving Marquis wondering how he managed it. Suddenly, Elnore appears behind him, sword aimed at his head, but Marquis reacts quickly, countering her and sending her flying. He calls Daud an insect and directly challenges him. Marquis then unleashes a powerful attack that knocks both of them back. Finally, he brings out his trump card, the Fangs of Darkness, and charges straight at our protagonist, vowing to finish him off. Daud sees the attack coming and activates the divine shield just in time. However, the shield can only absorb so much before it cracks, allowing the attack to smash right into his chest. He crashes to the ground and begins coughing up blood. Marquis remarks that Daud is tougher than he expected, believing that Daud has already used up all his tricks. Elnore rushes in, urging Daud to get up while she buys him some time to recover. Marquis comments on her tenacity and claims they make a perfect couple, which brings back some warm memories for Elnore regarding her past with Daud. She chimes in, saying it's about time she repays him. Daud decides to use the Necklace of Vitality, boosting his stamina. Elnore confidently assures him that she will believe in him until the end. Meanwhile, Marquis, feeling somewhat emotional, asks her if she has wrapped up her strategy meeting yet. He then poses a simple question about whether they're a good match, catching Marquis off guard. After a moment of thought, he replies that it's a terrible match, jokingly asking if she plans on being a housewife once they escape. This remark angers her, and she immediately charges at him with a fierce blow, unleashing a flurry of attacks. With her sword aimed at him, she strikes him with Maxima Dramontana. The force of that attack sends Marquis flying, crashing hard to the ground. He jumps up, cursing Daud, who has already scurried away like a rat. As Marquis approaches Elnore, he asks her what else she is hiding up her sleeve. Meanwhile, Percy, Conrad, and Elia are taking down the man-eaters. They had arrived after Daud filled them in, thinking they were just going after a meal. If they hadn't shown up, things could have turned out much worse. Back to Daud, who is still standing strong on the ground. He spots a weapon that Talion left behind and tries to grab it, despite being banged up. Just then, Elnore appears beside him, smashing her way through the ground. Marquis can't help but comment on her determination. And then it's Daud's turn. He asks Marquis if he has any last plans before striking, plunging his weapon into Daud's stomach. Elnore watches in shock as Daud is brutally taken down by Marquis. Just when the situation appears dire, a deadly charm activates and Daud manages to open his eyes, noticing that Elnore has transformed into a full demonic version of herself, all around. The colors faded away as not one but two demons lingered nearby. Our protagonist, who had just been stabbed, received a warning about the dangerous situation. When he glanced over, he noticed a demon mommy vibe emanating from Elnore. Part of the system was out of whack, and he realized that some of his powers had been drained. It turned out that the demon was using Elnore's body to make an entrance. This creature was a fragment of a white demon. Additionally, a deadly charm activated on Elnore, making it easier to draw in those with a dark side. As the situation escalated, the outcome grew stronger. The demon mommy ended up healing our protagonist and even confessed her feelings for him. Just as she finished healing him, a mark appeared on his chest. It was a sign of the fallen. The urgency of his wound was intense, leaving him baffled that this powerful demon mommy was showing him such kindness. It felt strange. He had no way of predicting how things would turn out, but he knew he had to act. So, he decided to use his secret weapon, a skill duplication ability ability he had been saving. The pressure was immense, making him feel like his head might burst and his skin might rip apart. He resolved to steal a skill from the entity linked to Elnore because he desperately needed it and knew it would be useful later. In the meantime, he kept being himself, charming and playful around Elnore. However, the demon mommy started to fade away, slipping from reality. She struggled to convey her message but managed to say she would be back later. Just then, Marquise jumped in, ready to turn Daud to dust. He launched a brutal strike, and just when it seemed like he might succeed, Daud vanished. Out of nowhere, Daud reappeared behind Marquis, who turned around just a moment too late. Daud slammed him hard into the ground. Confused and trying to regain his footing, Marquis struggled to stand. Daud positioned himself right in front of him, and the tension escalated. It was a do-or-die moment, pushing Marquise's survival instincts into overdrive. He activated his new skill, Sovereign of Pandemonium, which gave him a serious advantage against demon-type enemies for the next 5 minutes. Marquis yelled in disbelief, questioning how someone so weak could possess such strength, insisting that the prophet had never mentioned anything like that. But our protagonist wasted no time. He punched Marquis square in the face, sending him flying like an insect. He then told Marquis to get back up because it was time for round 2. Marquis is still shouting about how the prophet has never mentioned Daud. At that very moment, however, he is about to be taken out by our guy. He gets slammed to the ground, leaving a huge mess behind. As Marquis finds himself completely covered in blood and catches sight of our protagonist, he can't comprehend what is happening. He is bewildered, wondering how someone who appears to be just a kid could possess the same power he trained for years to acquire, and it seems even stronger. Shocked that after all his hard work, a mere brat could gain such strength, he starts vomiting blood. Angry and desperate, he decides to use Blood Mist, a form of demonic energy that boosts his power. He also activates the Blessing of Tar Soul to further enhance his strength. With a huge roar, both of them charge at each other, ready to engage. Their fists collide with a massive bang, creating a powerful explosion. Marquis sees his chance and grabs Daud by the head, preparing to smash him down with his other hand. Just as he is about to strike, Daud raises a holy shield to block the attack, leaving Marquis in shock as he realizes that Daud possesses divine power too. In retaliation, our guy slams his knee into Marquis's face with tremendous force, sending him flying and crashing into the castle behind him. Marquis's face is wrecked, and without hesitation, our protagonist prepares to finish things off. Suddenly, the skill expires and Catapult enters the showdown, colliding with Marquis, who is completely bewildered, realizing that it was actually the catapult all along. Determined, he charges at our guy again, ready to tear him apart. But our protagonist pulls out his last trump card and tells Marquis that his final words are pretty lame. Then he activates that weapon, leaving Marquis stunned as he realizes Daud anticipated everything from the very beginning. Having completed the quest, Daud now has 1 demonic essence, 1 hero fragment, and 5,000 points to show for it. He exhales a sigh of relief, pondering how he managed to earn all this. He thinks that perhaps the harder difficulty is yielding better rewards. Normally, he would have to choose between 2 options. Regardless, he has made a couple of changes that could shake things up in the plot. As he gets lost in thought about this, he remembers Elnore, and then someone interrupts, revealing that she is actually here. It's Adelante, the Chancellor, who wants him to explain how everything happened. She urges him to spill the details about the Grey Demon. Daud asks what Elnore means, but she brings it up, knowing he's already aware of the situation. She confronts him about getting involved with a demon. Elnore is in a tough spot, bleeding out, but she somehow manages to open her eyes. Chancellor Adelante points out that one of the major issues tied to this demon is corruption, which has spread throughout the area where Daud is located. She is certain that both the Inquisition and the Holy Empire will want to get involved. It feels like Daud has become the center of everything. She asks him if he would have acted differently if he had known it would end up like this. The Chancellor mentions the most powerful ruler in the Pandemonium, the Grey Demon, which is believed to have chosen Elnore as its vessel. Daud is already in the loop, and the Chancellor begins praising him for protecting their school and Elnore. She tells him to relax because what she's about to say is top secret. However, in his injured state, he collapses right onto her lap. She explains that after the last warrior's final actions, the demon fragments got scattered. Those fragments will soon start coming together, with a human right in the middle. The Grey Demon has recently awakened, and the fragments are going to gather soon. She speaks of the other demon vessels. Even in the original story, those vessels brought chaos. The incident caused by the Crimson Demon, known as the Red Knight incident, was a huge deal and is going to drag Elia's whole family into it. Additionally, the fragment switches its vessel randomly, meaning it changes every time. The Holy Empire has already identified potential vessels, and Elnore is one of them. She is doing everything possible to bring people together at this academy. Daud starts to think it's a bit risky to have so many dangerous individuals in one place. The Chancellor continues discussing true love. She recounts a time when a demon's vessel fell in love, which led to the destruction of the demon's fragment. She explains that love can erase the seeds of destruction. Daud feels like this whole situation has nothing to do with him, but he can't shake the feeling that it's a classic scenario. Adelante points out that the gray demon seems to have taken a shine to him, which catches him off guard. He starts to panic, insisting that's not the case at all. But she saw everything, the way the demon treated his injuries and even applauded for him. As he tries to convince her it was just pity, she interrupts, saying that regardless of the reason, this is a key part. Then, she makes an intense request. She approaches him and asks him to seduce the demon's vessel, which sends him into a panic. He yells back at her, questioning what she needs him to do because he believes he can't pull this off. She tries to reassure him, saying she'll help him flirt smoothly, but he continues to shout that this isn't the issue. The Chancellor clarifies that all the candidates they've lined up so far are actually female, including Elnore, Yuria, Lilu, and some other villains set to appear in the story. Adelante argues that this is a blessing from the heavens since he is the one praised by the gray demon. She asks if he truly wouldn't try to charm any of the other women, encouraging him to do whatever it takes to win them over and eliminate the demon fragments because that's how he can save the world. Confused, Daud recalls that she mentioned it must be about love. Adelante explains that it's not going to be easy, as demon worshippers will be hunting him down, and the vessels won't be regular people either. Still, she pleads with him to save humanity. He begins to think about escaping the situation, but then wonders what would happen if he fails to charm them. However, she already reminded him back in chapter 14 that if he fails, humanity faces destruction, and an evil empire ruled by demons will rise. This consideration brings to mind the demon lady from Elnore, and he can't help but feel frustrated with the game developers. Elnore slowly wakes up and sits up, confused about her surroundings. Her assistant, Chick, is trying to keep the students from sneaking in and skipping classes due to the circumstances. She tells them that Elnore is going to take a bit longer to wake up. When Elnore hears about the skipping classes, she chuckles softly. Chick rushes over, relieved to see her awake. As she had feared, Elnore was gone for good. Elnore then asks about Daud and learns that he is fine, and has already been discharged from the hospital because his injuries weren't serious. It surprises her to discover that she was hurt pretty badly, while Daud came out okay. While Elnore was unconscious, Chick informed their mutual friend that she had been in this state for 2 days. If Elnore hadn't woken up, Chick was prepared to take matters into her own hands regarding Daud. He reassured her not to worry, insisting that Elnore wasn't meant to die. This left her puzzled, wondering how he could be so sure. He simply shrugged it off and left, stating that since he had survived, the Tristan family was strong enough that she didn't need to risk her life for him. Chick reminded Elnore not to worry about Daud since she was just coming to. However, there were a couple of important matters they needed to discuss. Elnore waved it off, pointing out that she was still a patient, but mentioned that 2 individuals had stirred up trouble recently. The first issue involves Saintess Lucien, who is showing up at the academy, making Elnore wonder if she was really meant to start next semester. It turns out the academy decided she would start next week instead. Due to some incident she's caught up in, Elnore feels the Holy Empire and the Inquisition are making their moves. When she asks about the other person causing trouble, Chick reveals it's Sir Gideon, who is actually her father, and will also be coming to the academy. Meanwhile, on the other side of the academy, someone is enjoying the city view from a balcony. Lucian, trying to avoid the harsh light while smoking a cigarette, responds to Aid, a quirky guy nearby, who asks her if she doesn't find the lights cozy. She replies that if he had spent the night in the dark, he would see it her way. He jokes that the conversation is getting a bit too gloomy, but she insists he should just close the window. Aid wants to soak in the peaceful vibe a little longer, but Lucian points out it's strange to talk about peace with a demon worshipper and a saintess in the same space. Aid had hoped she might be a bit friendlier. To be fair, Lucian doesn't exactly look like a saint from any angle. He believes it's all about who is in control. Humans are fate-gripping life, but the saintess tells him to think whatever he wants. At least she has someone looking out for her. Our main guy just got a letter from his dad, who's saying summer's coming and even sent some fruit. In the note, Dad talks about this parent observation event, but mentions sending Herman instead since it's harvest time. He tells his son not to stress, just to keep out of trouble and stay quiet. But if he finds a girlfriend, he should take her on a vacation. Honestly, the protagonist is kind of relieved his dad can't make it. He calls out to Herman asking if he's basically a servant. Herman confirms it and offers to help with anything he needs, even suggesting some of the seedless grapes Dad sent. People passing by notice Daud has a butler and think he's trying to show off. To shake that off, he tells Herman to chill and act more like a buddy. Daud shares some grapes with Herman too, but he can't relax for long because the Chancellor's words are still nagging at him. He's supposed to charm all the demon vessels and save humanity. Then, he checks Elnore's stats, which are sitting at a super low endearment level 1, and sees her curiosity is linked to Gideon Tristan. Deciding to push saving the world aside for a bit, he focuses on his quests, especially the boss fight in chapter 2 that's been stressing him out. He feels stuck in his prep since he's never actually seen Gideon in the original story, where Gideon just showed up as a corpse. Even though things are a bit awkward with him and his daughter, he's still her dad. Things get messy when Gideon dies. waking the gray demon through Elnore's powers, and now he has a real problem to sort out. Talion spots Herman and wonders if there's trouble brewing. Meanwhile, Daud realizes that with Gideon back in the picture, everything's about to change, and he can't keep dodging a meeting with him. He needs info from Gideon. It's his best shot at beating the boss. While Talion chats with Herman, Daud steps in and tells him to leave his butler alone. He also asks to borrow Talion's sword for a day. Talion shows Daud his sword, saying it'll be an honor. Then he turns to Elnore, asking her to teach him some sword fighting since he wants to pick up Tristan's skills. Elnore, feeling a little soft, points out that it's the first time they've agreed on something. She grabs his sword and offers to help him out. Daud sees this as a solid chance to learn something useful and maybe win over Gideon later on. Out of nowhere, someone mentions how rare it is to see the student council president taking a break. It's Elia, who's not thrilled about Elnore giving private lessons to Daud. She reminds him to use both hands in a fight instead of just one. Elnore, clearly annoyed, shoots back that it's all about who's doing the teaching. Elia comes back with how she'd actually be a better choice since she used to be an assistant teacher. With a cold look, Elnore asks what Elia is really implying. Elia retorts, questioning if Elnore thinks she's better and if she could take her in a fight. As Elia grabs a couple of swords, both girls get ready to go at it while Daud stands by, just watching the tension build. Elia talks about how relying on the Tristan family is a bad idea, and she totally agrees. Still, it feels like she's being pushed to the edge. Even though she's scared, she yells that they should teach him a lesson instead of fighting each other, but the rest of the group isn't backing down, and Elia charges at Elnore. She wants to show her a thing or two, but Elnore can tell Elia isn't really giving it her all. Just when Elia thinks she's about to land a hit, Elnore blocks it and quickly counters with a flurry of strikes that leave Elia struggling to keep up. Every hit packs a punch, and Elnore isn't holding back. Doubts start creeping into Elia's mind. Could she really be about to lose to this demon? Elnore is surprised when Elia suddenly fights back. As she thinks about Elnore's demon family, Elia wonders if this girl will end up just another sacrifice, even though she herself comes from a noble background. This frustration fuels Elia, and she gets ready to hit Elnore with a big move called Guardian Strike, pouring everything she has into it. But she doesn't realize that our guy is right behind them and could get caught in the blast. Elnore spots the danger and jumps in to block the attack, which shocks Elia and makes her apologize. Elnore's quick action even makes Daud chuckle, wondering if she's starting to connect with her inner beast. Afterward, Elia rushes over to apologize to the president for acting recklessly, but he just points out that while her sword skills are awesome, she really needs to focus more on keeping her friends safe. Meanwhile, poor Herman is still waiting for someone to rescue him. Eventually, our guy finds himself in the jungle, realizing he can't afford to waste time. If he slows down, he won't get any stronger. He figures just practicing sword skills isn't enough. He also needs to work with holy energy. That's when he runs into Uria, who looks lively and is munching on some tasty apples. She recognizes him, and it turns out she's actually Lucian's little sister. Now it's her turn to step in and help out. Chapter 31, throwback to some old memories. A bunch of rotting corpses scattered everywhere. Someone's telling Uria she still hopes someone will swoop in to save her or be her friend, but that's just going to hurt her more in the long run. Then this weird guy jumps in saying she needs to wake up to that reality. He goes on about how hope just sets you up for disappointment while waving a sword around, insisting she should accept her fate like her sister did. He calls her a cursed token and says she'll be all alone until she dies. That's her way of protecting everyone, and it's her duty. Suddenly, Uria snaps back to reality and opens her eyes to realize it was all just a dream. Now in the present, while she's picking apples, the same guy shows up and asks how she's doing. Overwhelmed by her PTSD, she throws the sword at him, but he easily blocks it. Uria can't wrap her head around why he would step into her attack range when it's so dangerous. She's not holding back, and it feels like everything is happening all over again. But deep down, she doesn't really want to hurt him. She just wishes he would step back because she might accidentally cause him harm. But this guy isn't budging either. He points out that she looks fit and even compliments how well she handles her weapon. He reminds her that he promised to drop by now and then and asks if she's forgotten about him. He's brought enough food to last her a couple of days, which totally catches her off guard. He tosses the food her way and tells her not to feel lonely out there, away from everyone. He adds that every time he visits, he hopes it's not a bother, and really wants her to realize something soon. That word hits her hard, reminding her of that strange guy who called her a cursed amulet destined to be alone forever. Meanwhile, the boy just tells her to enjoy herself and that he'll see her soon. But all Uria can think about is that voice in her head, wishing for someone to save her or be her friend. When she opens up the food and sees all the amazing stuff, she stares at it, picking up a piece of bread. Tears start to well up as she reflects on everything she's been through. Thanks to his killer charm, he's caught Uria's attention without even realizing it. On top of that, he's got quicker reflexes and better aim in fights. Today's the observation class, which is why he and Uria have been training hard. Now he just needs to impress one guy, Gideon Tristan, a swordsman who wasn't even meant to be in the story. Parents are starting to roll in for for a meeting, kind of like a parent-teacher conference. As the ceremony gets underway, everyone can't help but notice Gideon, and they're all in shock that he's actually there. He usually only shows up for wars, so people are curious about what he's doing at the academy. Some think his daughter is the student council president, but he hasn't been to any opening ceremony before. He's known for being super cold, so nobody dares to approach him. Conrad jumps in and asks Gideon what's up. They have a quick chat, and Gideon just casually says he's taking a break from training. Conrad points out that Gideon's practically at the level of the first Archduke Tristan. Gideon just replies that he's cut down a mountain. Right after that, it's announced that the Battle Royale is about to kick off, and every student is jumping at the chance to join. The teachers will supervise the matches, and everyone can pick a wooden weapon. While parents are hyping up their kids, our protagonist starts feeling the pressure. He wonders if his character is feeling the same way and what he can do to grab Gideon's attention. One of the minions thinks he'll be facing Daud and is feeling hopeful about it. Elia is watching from the sidelines, curious about why Daud decided to join in. He reaches for his sword, but another girl goes for it too, and then quickly backs off. The goal is clear: be the last one standing. As he gets ready, he scans the crowd for where Gideon is sitting. Elia watches Daud and bets on him, while another girl has a cheeky grin as if she's up to something. Elnore is also keeping her distance, and her dad spots her too. The host gives the signal, and all the students dive into the showdown. Our protagonist finds himself up against a cocky opponent, while Gideon watches closely as he dodges attacks like it's nothing. Things start heating up when Lilu jumps in and lands a hit on Daud, totally catching him off guard. She calls him out, daring him to come at her. Lilu is the daughter of the tribal war chief, who was supposed to show up back in Chapter 5. When our protagonist catches a hit, both Elnore and Elia are totally taken aback. Lilu makes it clear that if he won't confront her, she's ready to unleash everything she's got. She's a bit of a sadist, enjoying the thrill of beating people. The tribal arts help folks in the tribal association level up their skills. Even with his survival tactic in play, there's no guarantee he'll win. Lilu's probably stronger than Elnore. Talion, who also gets hit, can't believe our protagonist saved him despite not having any real skills. Meanwhile, Daud wonders why Lilu even bothered to participate. Talion wants to make sure our protagonist comes out on top, but our protagonist tells him to take off and find safety if he gets the chance. Talion stands firm, ready to back up our protagonist. He challenges Lilu, saying if she wants to go after our protagonist, she'll have to get through him first. Lilu just extends her arm, catching our guy off guard, and warns Talion not to die before delivering a punch that sends him flying. Our protagonist manages to deflect it, but he still feels the impact and starts to question if she's really a freshman. Now it's a one-on-one match. Lilu looks a bit frustrated, having misjudged him at first. She wonders if he's holding back since he survived her hit, then decides to go all out. With his current skills, he's not sure he can even stand a chance against her maximum strength. Both Elnore and Gideon think he's pretty much doomed. They go into an epic clash, with Lilu throwing punches and our protagonist trying to block them. Out of the blue, he asks her to hold up and strengthens himself, catching her off guard. The crowd starts booing, throwing him for a loop. Elia thinks it's actually a smart move. Our protagonist is confused by the booing since he feels like he never had a real shot anyway. Just as the host is about to announce the winner, some of the participants are still going at it. Lilu's annoyed since things were finally getting interesting. She's fuming at our protagonist and can't quite believe what he just pulled. He knows that running away is probably his best bet. Then out of nowhere, someone jumps in and bags his head. Suddenly, he finds himself in a room where someone is calling out to him. A voice asks what his connection is with his daughter. Totally confused, he sees Gideon in front of him. He simply says they're friends. Gideon asks if he learned to wield a sword from her. Our protagonist stays calm, knowing he has to play it cool for his plans. He denies it, and Gideon starts grilling him about where he picked up the Tristan sword technique. Realizing Gideon knows about the technique, he tries to keep it together. Gideon presses him, asking if he really thought he wouldn't recognize their family's sword style, demanding to know who taught him. Since Gideon's a master swordsman, showing any weakness could mess everything up. He references someone familiar, trying to convince Gideon that the Sword Emperor tends to pop up unexpectedly, even in a rural parent's estate. Gideon seems intrigued by this lie and encourages him to keep talking. Our protagonist thinks that the best way to hide a truth is to build a bigger deception. He admits he actually asked for a favor, saying it's more like a task. He explains that Archduke Tristan promised to teach him the way of the sword. Gideon asks if our MC wants to learn swordsmanship from him, and the protagonist says his master told him to do it. Then Gideon asks if he's really ready to stand by that. Feeling confident, the protagonist says he is, but soon enough he starts second-guessing himself, wondering how he's going to be responsible for that. He realizes he's just basing this off what he knows from the original story. Not to mention he's the first one to actually meet Gideon, so even with all the chatter about him, he has no idea how strong Gideon really is. He suspects Gideon is testing him, and he totally gets why. Then Gideon points at him and says he's not blocking. This throws our protagonist off. Gideon keeps going, saying he's already dead. Gideon uses this crazy skill with a shapeless blade that cuts through stuff without needing a sword. And the protagonist is shocked shocked that he just pulled it off so casually. Gideon emphasizes again that the protagonist is dead and wonders if he can't even react to what just happened, questioning what he's supposed to learn from him. The protagonist figures this is a sword technique from the Empire's top knight, the one that can pierce dragon skin. But he thinks it's not fully developed because if it were, Gideon wouldn't need to move. Gideon asks if the protagonist gets what he's saying. Luckily, he does. In the original story, there's a journal found after Gideon's death that lays out all his steps to get stronger. The protagonist shares that Gideon's goal lines up with his. He needs to learn some things to break the curse on his family. Apparently, Gideon's master once told him that learning to cut the seas would be a better path, and that motivated him. The protagonist claims that rational motion is crucial. Once he sees the target clearly in his mind, he has to draw a perfect line. He's not entirely sure where this is coming from. It's just advice he found in Gideon's channel from his future self. When he tries it out, it surprisingly works. This makes Gideon wonder what he really is. The protagonist says he's just someone who wants Gideon to get stronger to avoid his death and keep Elnore from getting corrupted. He also stumbles upon something cool, the Seal of Immunity, which lets him dodge punishment for any mess he creates. This gives him a chance to have Gideon come to his rescue. Gideon is currently acting as the Empire's executioner, quietly following the Imperial family's orders, but the seal is going to come in handy in Chapter 2. On top of that, his deadly charm activates, showing that he has bonded with more villains, which boosts his powers. The protagonist realizes that he didn't even know this could happen. With Gideon's help, he wonders what this new skill is. It says that if a villain unlocks a new skill, he'll unlock the same one too, meaning he can temporarily use that newly acquired ability. He thinks this couldn't come at a better time, perfectly aligning with his plans. He gets that it's not going to be easy, but since Gideon said he'd take responsibility, the protagonist promises to protect the Tristan family.
And hey, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Zucker Manhwa for more epic recaps coming your way.